Welcome back to Simply Fujica, a place for budding and aspiring entrepreneurs. My name is Fujica and I service this community as a business mentor. And ultimately, I help people stand up and operate their home care agencies. If this is the first time that you are seeing one of my videos, I definitely want to welcome you. And for those of you who are returning, welcome back. And thank you for continuing to support this channel. So today we're doing part 2 of a 2-part series of 12-hour care versus 24-hour care. And really part 1 was more so talking about why you would want 12-hour care versus 24-hour care. And today, because I'm always asking you to put your owner hats on, we're talking about what are those employer considerations? Like, what should you consider when it comes to either offering and or servicing 12-hour shifts versus 24-hour shifts. So if that is something that you are interested in, then stay tuned. So as a reminder, I will have part 1 definitely in the video description so that you can view it if you haven't seen it already. But something that is a big consideration in terms of 12-hour care versus 24-hour care is the cost. So I want to also give you as a resource or remind you of a resource that I have here on this channel is I have previously done a video on how do you create your cost structure. So with that being said, let's jump into today's content. For 12-hour care, your first consideration as an employer are the staffing needs. So this should go without saying, but really and truly, you want to make sure that you're hiring people who are willing to work a 12-hour shift. There are some people who don't want to work more than 8 hours. And so you want to have that conversation up front. If they are aspiring to be one of your employees, that you do offer 12 or 24-hour care, is this something that they're interested in? Or, to schedule them for some of your lighter clients. Again, ultimately, that's going to be a decision that you will need to make based on the needs of your agency. The second consideration you want to have here are scheduling challenges. So it's already challenging, and a lot of you are communicating with me. Sometimes it's a challenge to remain staffed, and not only remain staffed, but staffed with people who are accountable and who are reliable to their position. Offering a 12 or 24-hour shift just complicates things more. So sometimes I've seen people move to a scheduling software. You will have to implement hiring strategies such as hiring 2 people per shift in the event one calls out, in the event one is late, in the event someone's schedules change. So either way, by doing so, either way that shift is covered. The third point of contention that I have here is caregiver fatigue. Now, fatigue is a real thing, especially not only because of the nature of the position, but now they're doing it at 12 and or 24 hours at a time. And so you really want to be mindful. And sometimes it's despite what a person says, because I know that a lot of times people can be asking me, am I okay? And I'm telling them yes, even though I'm on my last leg. So as an employer, it's really up to you to kind of cue into those context clues, see how a person is behaving, how they're communicating, checking in with your clients to ensure that they are happy with the care that they are receiving, and ultimately making sure that you have processes in place to ensure that people are taking regular breaks and that your caregivers ultimately have the support that they need. The fourth point that I'm going to talk about here is training, and this should also go without saying. There's a different component of taking care of someone for 12 hours versus 4 and even 8 hours. So just ensuring that that person has adequate training, that they know how to manage that length of a shift, and that they also know that they can reach out to you for support and or questions. A tip that I have for you here is making sure that a person maybe buddies up. Maybe your employees can bundle up. If you have someone who is more tenured, maybe have them serve as a buddy to a newer person that is starting to work 12 hours for you. Again, the purpose here is to ensure that all training is received and also to make sure that there is adequate support for the person who is manning or servicing those 12-hour shifts for you. The fifth point that I have here is going to you're actually going to see it again when we go to the 24-hour shift, and that is compliance. Something that a conversation that I've been having with a lot of my clients lately is just making sure you have some type of, whether it's a legal subscription, legal representation, just to ensure that not only are you aware of the labor laws that are particular to your state and or region, but that you are enforcing those things. Those considerations can be overtime, double time. What do breaks look like? Rest periods, meal periods. All of those things you want to make sure that you are in compliance with and that you understand to ensure that you are paying people adequately and that, of course, they are getting the appropriate rest and or break periods. I cannot stress that enough. It is super important. And I always like to say, I'm not an attorney, but let me speak to someone who is, to ensure that I'm protecting myself, my employees, and my business. In the previous video, you saw me break down points for 12-hour care and points for 24-hour care. In this particular video, all of the considerations that I mentioned for 12-hour care, they go for 24-hour care as well. In addition, for 24-hour care, I want to point out these additional points of contention. The first is something that I am going to call a caregiver team. Now, for the 12-hour shift, you heard me mention something in terms of a buddy. So a buddy is more someone you can reach out to, someone that you can reach out to for support and things of that nature. When I'm introducing the verbiage team, let's say you do decide that you are going to break your 24-hour shift up into two 12-hour shifts. Those two caregivers are now a team, a caregiver team for that particular client. So what does conversation look like for them? What are some best practices that they can share with each other to ensure the continuity of care for that client? This is what I mean by team. They are a team. We are teaming up to ensure that that client receives adequate and actually excellent care. This is going to help retain your client for the long haul, but it's also going to institute within your caregivers that you take pride in the care that they provide and you care about them as employees to ensure that they are giving 100% because they feel 100%. So as it relates to cost, when you think of cost management, the only way you're going to get an adequate picture is for you to do an analysis of both. What will it cost you? How much will you make providing this client 12 hours of care versus charging this person for 24-hour care and paying two caregivers 12 hours a shift? Does that make sense? Which one is more cost beneficial to you? Which one yields you more net funds? That's the type of analysis that you're going to have to do in order to make the best decision for you and your agency. And remember, you all, it's okay not to have all of the right answers. However, as soon as you see that there is a more efficient or effective way that either yields more revenue for you and assistance for your client, you want to make sure that you are progressively improving your business. You want to make sure that you're progressively improving your operations. This is how you learn. This is how you grow. And this is going to be how you scale your business. So we are going to wrap this video talking about what are some additional considerations, whether you're providing 12-hour care or 24-hour care, what are some things that you really need to keep your mind on when offering these types of services. And the first I've already mentioned, which is making sure that compliance is key in your organization. And listen, it's not that you are expected to know everything, but you want to make sure you can connect yourself with those people that are subject matter experts in every area that your business touches, okay? And legal representation is included in that. The second item that I'm going to talk about here is the quality of care. And so remember, listen, our caregivers are human just like the rest of us. And so they're going to get tired, they're going to get burnt out. As an employer, you really want to partner with them to ensure that they're taking adequate rest breaks, that they're taking meal breaks. This is no time for a hero. So these are your employees who never want to take a lunch, never want to take a break, and then they just burn out, right? So really partner with that person to let them know that you care about their health and you want to make sure that they are taking their breaks so that they can rejuvenate and continue to give that white glove service. Remember, this is going to include them taking the right amount of time off as well. The second point that I want to mention here with quality care, do not forget, and I kind of talked about this earlier, I touched on it, make sure you're reaching out to your client just for checkpoints. You're just small little check-ins to see how the client is doing. How is the service? Is it up to expectation? Is there any way that we can improve? So see, these are types of questions. What are we doing well, right? Because then that turns into a best practice potentially for your agency. So these are the types of questions that you want to ask your client in order to improve communication. Client needs, that's another consideration that I have for you here, and that really should never be far behind, right? Everything that we do is based on the need of the client. That's why we're here. So again, you want to put together those small touch points I talked about just a moment ago. You might want to create a survey that goes out to the client every 30, 60, or 90 days. You create that cadence for your agency, but really just make sure that there is a line of communication, a way, a system for you to constantly receive feedback, right? And then making sure that you reach back out to that client to let them know if there were any changes that were made as a result of their feedback. Let them know that, because that lets them know you're not just asking for show, that you're asking to actually make changes, right? So this is really important when it comes to surveys and making sure that you're implementing the feedback that you're receiving. And last but not least, and this is definitely not going to be this is not going to be a shock to anyone, communication. Communication is key, and you have got to make sure that you're communicating both to your caregivers, to your clients, and actually make sure that you request that your caregivers are also communicating with your clients, because they are there. They are the face of your agency. So what does that communication look like back and forth between your caregiver and the client? You know, make sure that you are there to help manage that you're there to help foster that, right? So I always like to make sure that I always like to make sure that the avenues of communication remain open, that certainly both the caregiver and the client feel free to contact you, to express concerns, and even to provide great feedback. I mean, we all love to hear great feedback, right? And again, you've heard me mention that several times when it comes to retaining your caregivers. Definitely something that makes caregivers feel good is when they get that shout out from the client, when the client loves their caregiver, you know, and they have compliments for them. Share that with that caregiver. Turn that positive feedback around and share that with the other caregivers, right? Really, that's part of how you can booster that communication, booster that relationship, is through that recognition. Okay, so what have I left out? That is the end of today's video. I actually enjoyed doing this series. I think this is something that's important. Again, these are questions that I get a lot, and so I turn them into videos for you. If you find yourself in a situation where you just need a little bit more assistance, you absolutely need more help with either starting or getting licensed for your home care operation, for your home care agency, I am here for that. I would suggest you either email me at simplyfujica@yahoo.com. Also, do not forget to take a look at my website, which will highlight the services that I offer. My website is simplyfujica.com. Well, if you have enjoyed today's content, I would ask that you like the video. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and then hit that bell notification so that you're notified every time I release a new video. Okay, I want to wish you the best of luck for those of you who are out there getting licensed and for those of you standing up your agencies. That's all I have for you all today. Stay blessed. I am so excited to share that I have published my first book, Goodnight Boo. Goodnight Boo is not only a dream come true, but it's essentially a love letter to my first child. It's really talking about the joys of wanting to have a child and finally having that child. So I really do think this is something that all mothers can relate to. We certainly love our babies. We want the best for our babies, and this book celebrates that. So if you would like to support me and purchase a copy of the book, the link is in the description. As always, I want to thank you for your support.